In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about two different types of methods. Because in this lesson, we're really all about starting to break down the different methods that are available to us and understanding how they're classified differently so we can identify the specific characteristics that each method has. So this first distinction we want to make is between void and non-void methods. Okay, so void methods basically are methods that perform an action for us, but they don't return any information. They generally change the state of the object that we're working on. Okay, I'm going to repeat that sentence because it's a lot of vocabulary. Void methods perform an action, and generally they change the state of the object that we're calling the method from. So in this example here, c.setRadius, the object is c, right? And ask yourself, what is the class type of c? If you remember from our last video, it's a circle. Okay, so our object, which is an instance of a circle, and then we're calling setRadius, which changes the state of c. When I say change the state, I mean that it alters some of the information within that object, c, and in this particular case, what it's changing is it's changing the radius. The radius is a number that is part of this object, and this method changes it. It changes it to whatever number we pass in through these parentheses. Okay, our second type of method is a non-void method. Okay, non-void methods actually return a value to us. And most of the time they're used for pulling information out of an object. Right, so in this example we have c.getArea because the object circle has an area, right? We can calculate the area of a circle, and this getArea method is going to tell us, it's going to take the radius, right, which is already part of this circle, and it's going to use that to calculate area, and then it's going to give us that number back. Now, because it's giving us that number back, when you call a non-void method, you're almost always going to see an equal sign, because this is the assignment operator, and we need somewhere to put the number that comes back to us, or the value that comes back to us, right? And so the place that we usually put that is going to be in a variable. Okay, let's go ahead and have a look at the API so we can dig into a little bit more of the details of void and non-void methods. Here again, we're looking at the circle class, and we're going to scroll down to the different methods, the method summary. And what I want to do here as an exercise is to go through all of these different methods and then ask ourselves, is this a void method or a non-void method? All right, so the first one is equals, which compares this circle to the specified object. So it's going to compare and tell us if these two things are equal. Is that going to change the state of the circle? No. But it is going to have to return some information to us. It's going to have to return true or false, which is why over here we actually see the word Boolean. So this is sort of a hint that in the documentation, it immediately tells us that this method equals is non-void because it returns some type of information, and what it returns is a Boolean. Okay, next up we have getArea, which was the example, and we see it returns a double, so it's non-void. GetCircumference calculates the circumference of this circle as a double, returns a double, so it's non-void. GetRadius, used to get the radius of the circle, which must be a positive number, also returns a double. And then here we have setRadius, and you see over here the word void, right? So this indication right here tells us that this is a void method. It's not going to return any information. You don't want to try to save the result of this into a variable. And then finally, toString, which is a string representation of this circle. This also returns a string for us. All right, so now let's try this together in some coding practice. Here we're going to continue to work with the circle class for simplicity's sake. And you can see that the first method we're calling is setRadius. Now, if you remember from previously in the video, setRadius is a void method because it changes the state of the circle, but it doesn't actually return anything. So you want to make sure, right, if you're calling setRadius, you never want to try to catch a return value. You can't use $x equals c.setRadius because nothing is returned by this method. And so you would actually get an error message if you try to run this. See, incompatible types. Void cannot be converted to a double. So when we call void methods, we don't set them equal to anything. Alternatively, our other method that we had in our notes was get area. Now, get area, we're not actually passing any information in, right? But we are going to get some information back. This is going to calculate the area of this circle for us, and then it's going to return it. And I'm going to actually print out our area here. Remember, this is a non-void method. I'm going to print out this area here so that we can see if our answer was correct. All right, we try running our code. We get 314.159265, essentially pi times 10 squared. So let's see what actually happens if, instead of setting the radius to 10, we set the radius to 20. Should get a different value, right? We should be getting a different area that's changed by the fact that we just doubled the radius. If we run the code, we do in fact get a much larger area. All right, so now you have a few more tools to play around with, and if you're feeling brave, you can always go into the API and have a look at some of the other shapes available to you and try to use those and check out the void and non-void methods that they have.